Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
They're in Caden's truck, and Angie is really upset. The wave hit the beach. Angie managed to get free and tried desperately to open the door. "Let me out! I need to get out!" She pressed back against Caprice, showing her frustration. "I know who you are! You're here to take him away from me and hurt my baby!" She started to cry. "I know it!" Caprice felt Angie's anger but spoke calmly. "Angie, that doesn't make sense. I'm not here to hurt anyone. Caden helped me. He saved me from a bad place." She paused. "Angie, why would you trust someone who has not treated you well?" Angie thought about that. She had believed her father's words for so many years. Still in Caprice's hold, she looked up at Caden and said firmly, "I hate you. You know that?" Her words hit me hard. I had heard it many times, and it always hurt. Caprice took a deep breath, trying to keep the peace. "Let's go back to Caden's. We can clean up, find you something nice to wear, and get some rest." She held on to Angie. "Tomorrow we can think things through. We could go to church and pray about everything." Angie had grown up in the church, and prayer had always comforted her. I could see her calming down. Even though I didn't share Angie's experiences, I noticed Caprice had a good understanding of feelings. "I think Caprice is right. I have some clothes that should fit you, Angie." Angie still seemed doubtful. "Why would you have my clothes?" I replied. "I bought some things once when I came back." Both women looked surprised. Caprice kept holding Angie, who seemed to accept it. I restarted the truck and got back on the road. Once we returned to my house, I went upstairs to the room where I kept things for Emily and Angie. I unlocked the door and opened the drawer, pulling out a collection of clothes I had bought for Angie. I laid out a white blouse, slacks, and other items. Feeling nostalgic, I opened Uncle Mitchell's sea chest to look at some photos of my daughter. Just as I was about to close it, I heard shouting downstairs. Rushing down, I saw Caprice holding my cell phone. "That man Bernard went to Angie's mom's looking for her. He must have scared her. She called here asking if Angie was safe. I told her she was," Caprice said, her voice tense. "She wants to see you right away." Caught off guard, I forgot everything else and managed to say, "I left the clothes for Angie upstairs. You can go get them. I'll head over to Mrs. Bradford's right away." Angie interjected, "I want to go too." "No, it's better if you stay here. I won't be long." Caprice gave Angie a sympathetic look. "It'll be okay. We can get ready for bed." I could see Angie was unhappy, but I believed it was for the best. A surprising thought came to mind. Caprice was quite good at helping people. I pushed it aside and grabbed my keys. "I'll be back soon." Caprice took Angie's hand. "Come on, let's see what Caden got for you." They went upstairs. When they entered the room, Caprice said, "Look, here are the clothes," holding up the blouse, trying to sound cheerful. "Isn't this nice?" Angie found something surprising. I wasn't interested in any old clothes that Caden might have bought. I noticed Uncle Mitchell's old sea chest. I knew Caden used that chest. Curiosity made me want to explore. The first thing I saw was a small stack of receipts. I recognized them right away, receipts for my and Emily's Easter dresses, and one for my mom's dress. I decided to look further. Caprice noticed me searching through the chest. "Hey, what are you doing? Come here, look at this." Caprice came over. Without her glasses, all she saw was a blur. "I don't think we should be looking at this." Angie replied, "No, look, I can't see. I need glasses." Angie held up some papers and a stack of pictures. "These are old pictures of me and Emily, and these receipts. They're for things I thought my mom had bought." "What do you mean?" Angie started taking everything out of the chest, showing many items. "I thought. All this time I thought. Thought what? All the clothes, the dance lessons, the money for birthday parties. Caden has been paying for everything." "I don't understand." "Since Caden came back, he's been taking care of us. I should have realized my mom couldn't afford this. He's been providing everything. There's even a receipt for a pony for Emily. This is a good thing then." Angie's eyes were filled with emotion. "No, it's terrible. I didn't see it. What am I going to do?" "First, let's put this away, then we can go back downstairs." After we put everything back in the chest, we headed downstairs, washed up, and got ready for bed. We settled in the living room, waiting for Caden. Caprice asked, "Are you going to tell him what you found out?" "No, I know him. He'd get upset. I need to think this through myself." "This changes everything, doesn't it?" "Yeah, I think it does." Caden returned home. I got back home about an hour later and tried to calm everyone down. False alarm. Later that evening, Angie and Caprice quietly talked. They sat together and discussed Caden about the past, about love, and about mistakes. Caprice, thinking about everything she had seen, told Angie that Caden clearly still cared for her. She shared how much Caden had helped her without wanting anything in return, and how she believed that showed a lot about who he was. "If he can do so much for someone like me," Caprice said gently, "imagine what he'd do for someone he truly cares about." Angie hesitated. "You think he still cares for me?" Caprice didn't hesitate. "It's clear. You just have to look at him." Angie admitted she thought Caprice had come to take Caden away, and that jealousy and fear had clouded her thinking. Caprice assured her that wasn't true, and told her clearly that if Angie didn't want to lose him, she needed to take action. Caprice suggested getting help if needed, focusing on being strong for Emily and letting go of the past. Angie listened closely, absorbing her words. For a moment, the two women shared a genuine understanding, not as rivals, but as allies. Both had faced difficulties in their lives, and they were brought together by one man who had touched them both unexpectedly. They fell silent, the conversation hanging in the air, not fully resolved, but understood. From that moment on, something changed. Angie and Caprice grew noticeably closer. They shared a quiet bond that hadn't been there before. A new sense of calm and mutual respect surrounded them. Friday morning came with a gentle energy. Caprice woke up early and softly nudged Angie. "Time to get up," she said, smiling warmly. Angie blinked against the bright morning light and smiled back. "Morning, Caprice." It was one of those rare moments when everything felt easy, like a fresh start. Caprice tilted her head playfully. "Let's make breakfast. We can talk about what's next for you while we cook." "My next steps?" Angie asked. "Your future," Caprice said kindly. Meanwhile, Caden had slept upstairs. When he came down, he immediately noticed the change. The tension between the two women from the day before was gone, replaced by a feeling of support and unity. He raised an eyebrow. "Everything all right this morning? You two seem different." Angie gave him a brief smile and turned to Caprice. "We want to see Pastor Cook today." Caden looked between them. "Oh? Something important?" Caprice nodded gently. "Angie wants to talk about counseling." That surprised Caden in a good way. "You're serious?" he asked. Angie looked up. "Yes. I also want your help finding a job, something steady and meaningful." "I could ask about a part-time position at the library," Caden offered. "They might need someone reliable," Caprice encouraged her. "That would be a great start." "You think I could actually get it?" Angie asked quietly. "I do," Caprice said. "And Caden can help, right?" Caden nodded. "I'll call Matt. He runs the place. If I talk to him, he'll consider it." Angie smiled, feeling hopeful. Caprice reached out and squeezed her hand. Caden noticed the small gesture and felt a bit confused, but pushed it aside. The important thing was that Angie was feeling better. Caprice then asked, "Would it be okay if I went with Angie to see her mom later? She wants me to meet her daughter." Caden paused, then replied, "Of course." As he finished his coffee, he sensed that Angie had found a new confidence asking for permission because she wanted to do things the right way. He left them to their plans and stepped outside, but caught a glimpse of the two women smiling at each other through the door. Caprice leaned over and whispered to Angie. "That went better than I thought," she said. "He even gave me the car keys." Angie laughed softly. "Think we have time to relax for a bit before heading out?" Caprice nodded. "A little time. Then we start fresh." Later that morning, Caprice and Angie visited Pastor Cook. They had called ahead and were warmly welcomed into his office. "Good morning," Caprice said politely. "My name is Caprice Fisher, and I believe you already know Angie." The pastor, a friendly man in his 60s, nodded with a smile. "Yes, I do. It's good to see you both. I have a little time before I visit the hospital, but how can I help? Caprice glanced at Angie before continuing. We both know someone you've likely heard of, Caden McLeish. We're here because we want to talk about finding support, building a stable future for Angie. I'm starting to have real feelings for her. Angie invited me to join her for a relaxing moment. She is beautiful in a youthful way, and I enjoyed our time together. I felt a strong desire to care for her, remembering a time when someone showed me kindness. Afterward, we took a short nap and decided to make a special effort to spend time playing with Emily daily. Angie mentioned there were other girls in town, but their mothers didn't want Emily to play with them, which seemed unfair. I wasn't sure how long I would stay, but I wanted to pursue 3 things: getting to know Angie better, bonding with her daughter, and connecting deeper with Caden. There's something else troubling me. I'm not used to caring for others. Just a few days ago, I felt indifferent towards everything. Now I feel trapped, and every time I try to move ahead, it pulls me back in. I have nowhere to return to. Vince wanted to harm me. I see people around me leading meaningful lives, many of whom need help. I feel like I'm becoming part of something, and I think I like it. I don't know what to do. And Caden. I drove down to the barns. Dell had already taken care of the animals, so I decided to check the roadside stands by the beach. It was still early, but soon they'd take up a lot of time. I wanted to assess the fields. I had done well clearing the weeds along the ditch banks, but I kept coming across bottles that belonged to Uncle Johnny. I had thought he was just spending his days drinking, but I realized that wasn't the case. I felt sorry for him. Despite his wealth, he was surrounded by reminders of empty bottles. That thought made me remember I needed to get back to work. Then Angie. Caprice and I arrived just as Emily came home from kindergarten. After a short nap, we played a board game together. It was great to see us all having so much fun. Emily seemed to enjoy it the most, moving from my lap to Caprice's. I was surprised when she suddenly gave Caprice a quick kiss on the cheek. After that, we decided to try something new. Back to Caden. When I got home, I saw the Lexus parked outside. Laughter and music filled the house. As I opened the front door, I saw Caprice and Angie dancing in the dining room. They didn't see me at first, so I watched them enjoying themselves. It made me happy to see them so carefree. As I entered, I said, "Hey, what's happening?" They noticed me right away, and Caprice quickly turned off the music. I felt bad for interrupting their fun as the mood shifted. I tried to ease the situation, saying, "Don't stop. You were having a great time." Caprice reacts, "I wished I hadn't turned off the music." Caden looked genuinely happy, and now he seemed uneasy. I said, "I'm sorry. We were just having fun." Angie picked up her daughter and said, "I guess we should go now." "No, don't," a flustered Caden said. "Stay for dinner." I smiled and replied, "No, I really should take Angie and Emily home. Mrs. Bradford made a special meal." I could see disappointment on Caden's face, which made me feel bad. To lighten the mood, I told Angie, "Your mom always prepares great meals." Angie added, "Today is Good Friday. She's making her special crab cakes." Then looked at Caden. "I'm sorry, but Mom only invited Caprice. She didn't think to invite you." Caden tried to smile, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. He said, "That's okay. I'm not hungry anyway. You go ahead." His forced smile made me think about how many times he had been let down in life. I said, "No problem. I have a full tank of gas." Caden took it in stride. I felt a bit down, but I think I hit it well. I said, "I need to shower. You all go ahead. I have to get to bed early for tomorrow," and hurried upstairs without looking back. I felt like I had spoiled a happy moment. Once I got upstairs, I heard the front door close. I watched from the bathroom window as the Lexus drove away. Caprice spotted him as they left. "Do you think maybe—" Angie answered, "No, not today." Emily asked, "Why do you think he's mean? He looked like he was going to cry. I bet we could make him happy if we asked him." Angie responded, "He's not as mean as Mr. Keith, but Mr. McLeish has done some pretty bad things." In her innocence, Emily said, "Is it something we could forgive him for? Mrs. Newland, my Sunday school teacher, says we should forgive people when they do bad things. You forgive me all the time, right, Mommy?" Angie avoided her daughter's question. "It's a little hard to forgive Mr. McLeish, Emily. I'll explain it to you someday." Emily insisted, "Tell me now." Angie cut her off. No, when you're older. We drove over to Mrs. Bradford's. I stayed to eat and we played Candyland again. I returned to Caden's after 10 p.m. It was dark, but he had left the front door unlocked. I figured he was asleep, so I slipped into the master bedroom, got into my pajamas, and quickly fell asleep. Caden had a rough Friday night, and Saturday wasn't much better. I didn't sleep well. I heard Caprice when she came back. She had been here a week, and during that time, she had spent more time with my daughter than I had in years. She had become friends with my ex-wife and was having dinners with my former mother-in-law. I felt like I was missing out on everything good. I worked hard all day, feeling frustrated. I couldn't shake the feeling of being like someone outside a fancy restaurant, peering in at those I cared about enjoying a meal together. I wanted to be part of that. Saturday went as expected. I got up and left early. I worked hard all day. I drove by Mrs. Bradford's a couple of times. I saw my Lexus parked in front. When I got home, it was late. The Lexus was back in the garage and Caprice had gone to bed. I showered and set the alarm. Tomorrow was Easter Sunday. I hoped Dell remembered to take pictures. I was sure Emily, Mrs. Bradford, and Angie would be at church. I would take Caprice. At least I would get to see everyone. Easter morning, I had to admit I was a bit excited. I would see all three of my girls. I had started thinking of Caprice as one of my girls. I don't know why, but I did. She came out in a lovely yellow dress she had bought. I thought she looked beautiful. Caprice, you look wonderful. She smiled at me. I don't look silly? Not at all, not to me. We took the Lexus, and I drove. When we arrived at church, I opened the door for her. I was relieved her dress stayed in place. Her heels were just the right height. I felt extremely proud. I saw Angie helping my daughter out of her mother's car. They were dressed alike in pretty pale blue sailor dresses. They took my breath away. They look lovely, don't they? Caprice said softly. I nodded. We all entered and found our seats. I usually sat in the middle of the center row of pews. Angie, her mom, and Emily sat closer to the front on the left side. We all arrived early, so we found seats near our usual spot. The church filled up quickly. The service followed its usual routine. Some music from the organ, a mention of people to pray for, a children's segment, the sermon, a statement of faith, an offering, and finally, the closing prayer. Everything went as I expected, except for one surprising moment. Caprice didn't have her glasses, so she couldn't read the music, but she knew all the words to the hymns. Her voice was clear and lovely. The surprise happened during one of the last hymns. I don't remember which one, but it was moving. Out of nowhere, at the song's peak, Caprice added a beautiful harmony. It sounded like a gift from above. I was completely amazed. I looked around and everyone else seemed just as surprised. I turned to her and asked, "Where did that come from?" She blushed and replied, "I don't know, it just happened." "It was beautiful, Caprice," I said, noticing her embarrassment and deciding to change the topic. After the service, we stood outside on the lawn when a man approached us. He was a local truck driver and a big guy, tall and heavy, with a bright red face. He wore a suit that looked a little too tight. From a distance, I noticed his yellow teeth, and I never cared for him. His name was Aaron Giles. Aaron walked up to Caprice and me and asked, "Haven't we met before?" Caprice said, "I don't think so." Aaron replied, "Have you ever been to Dillsburg?" Dillsburg, Pennsylvania was where I had been playing cards the week before. I told him, "No, you must be mistaken. Caprice is my friend." Aaron kept looking at her. "I could have sworn," I interrupted. "No, Aaron, you're mistaken." I took Caprice's arm and started to walk toward Angie, Emily, and Mrs. Bradford. Caprice whispered to me, "He knows me. He recognizes me." I gently squeezed her arm and asked, "Are you still the same person? Or are you someone different?" She didn't respond. I knew she understood what I meant. I could see that I had upset her. As we walked over to the girls, I noticed Angie looking more anxious. When we reached them, I said, "Beautiful sermon, wasn't it?" Mrs. Bradford didn't reply. She turned to Caprice and asked, "Will you be over for Easter dinner?" Caprice looked at me. I answered for her, "Of course she will." Then Mrs. Bradford, my ex-wife, and daughter walked away. Caprice turned to me again. "I won't go if you don't want me to." "No," I told her. "I want you to go, but you have to promise to tell me how Emily likes the pony." I could tell she had forgotten about it. Caprice thought that if I was at Mrs. Bradford's, I would see my daughter's reaction. She wished there was a way to invite me too, but she knew that wasn't her place. She felt sorry for me. She said, "I'll keep an eye on it and I'll tell you when I get home tonight." I probably had a slightly sad smile on my face. "Tell Angie I talked to Matt Devereaux. He'd like to interview her tomorrow." Caprice asked, "Do you think she has a chance?" I replied, "Absolutely. I made him an offer he couldn't refuse." I chuckled at my own joke. I took her arm and we walked back to the car. We drove home quietly. A little after 2 o'clock, she grabbed her raincoat and the keys to the Lexus and drove over to Mrs. Bradford's. I waved goodbye as she left, and I felt uneasy. After Caprice left, I did some things I wouldn't normally do. I poured myself a drink and had another, then another. I felt overwhelmed. I went upstairs and rummaged through Uncle Mitchell's old trunk. By then, it was almost 7 p.m. I finished my 7th drink, sat down in an old rocking chair, and started to cry. I thought about the Oak Ridge Boys song. I guess sometimes it hurts to feel pain. Dell got to witness Caden's thoughtful surprise. Caden had asked me to take pictures of Emily when she saw the pony. I have to admit, if I had a child, I would call that a golden moment. The joy on the girl's face was priceless. It was the happiest I had ever seen her. Angie was happy too. Mrs. Bradford smiled but didn't say much. I didn't hear her speak at all. Caden's gift was a huge success. It was unfortunate that little Emily didn't know who it was from. I thought they could have at least let him watch from afar, but I knew Mrs. Bradford didn't like him any more than Angie did. I believed most of Caden's actions didn't deserve such harsh treatment as being kept away from that joyful moment on Emily's face. I took a lot of pictures, and after stopping at my parents' house, I headed over to Caden's. I arrived at Caden's a little after 7 o'clock. I heard him right when I walked in. I knew my uncle wouldn't want me to see him upset, so I sat down at the dining room table. I thought Caprice would be home soon, and she would know what to do. That surprised me. She had been around just a week, yet I thought of her as part of the family. It felt like she was stepping in. Caden needed someone to care for him, but Caprice was quite strong-willed. Caprice got back around 9 p.m. Dell's truck was parked out front. I parked the Lexus in the garage and went inside. Dell was sitting on the sofa, and I asked, "Where's Caden?" "He's upstairs. He was feeling down when I got here. He might be sleeping now." "Why? What's going on?" "He was upset. I thought it would be best to wait for you down here. What do you think we should do?" I walked over to the table. I went through the pile of pictures that Dell had taken and said, "He missed a nice moment, didn't he? He hasn't seen them yet." I bit my lip, not sure what to do. "Dell, you can go home now. Can you manage the farm tomorrow? I don't think Caden will be able to." He said, "Sure, Caprice. What are your plans?" I was supposed to drop Angie off at the library for her interview, and Caden was going to take me to a couple of places. "I think Mrs. Bradford can take Angie. I'll stay here to look after Caden." He sighed, and I thought it was a sign of relief. "Thanks, Caprice." He grabbed his keys, but then turned back. He quickly asked, "You won't hurt him?" I waved it off with a smile. "No, I won't hurt him." I stood at the door, thinking as Dell drove away. Things had changed a lot in just a week. I had changed a lot in a week. I felt lost, and the lonely man upstairs made me think about my own life. Just last Monday, I saw Caden as someone I didn't understand. Now where did that leave me? Monday morning, I waited with a hot cup of black coffee when Caden woke up. It was exactly 7 a.m. Even though it had only been a week, I realized he was as reliable as a clock. He turned over and, through sleepy eyes, looked at me. I figured his head felt heavy from the night before. I handed him the coffee. "Here you go." He looked at me and asked, "What happened? How did I get in here?" I smiled. "You silly boy. You don't remember? I helped you to bed." He glanced down under the covers. "Where are my clothes?" I took the coffee cup back before he could spill it. "Hey, I couldn't let you go to bed fully dressed, could I? You were still wearing your Easter suit." I lowered my voice a little and added, "I could have made sure you stayed in bed." He looked at me with confusion. Caprice sat beside Caden on the edge of the bed, watching him wake up. "Don't worry," she said with a gentle smile. You didn't miss anything while you were out. Just rest. Caden blinked at her, still a bit disoriented but calm. She helped him sit up and brought him a glass of water. He still looked pale from the night before. The coffee's brewing, she added. I know you like it strong. Caden nodded. Thanks. Caprice glanced toward the half-open door to the study. I saw what's in that chest, she said softly. He followed her gaze and paused before he replied, Yeah, it's not something I show to many people. Caprice looked at him with understanding. You should. That chest, those things show who you are, a man who never gave up, a father who tried. He looked away. She continued, I've met a lot of men, Caden. Most only care about power or control. But you? You care about people. Your daughter, your ex-wife, even about someone like me, someone who seems unimportant. Caden ran a hand through his hair, trying to take it all in. I just want to do the right thing. I don't always know how. Caprice gently placed a hand on his shoulder. You're doing better than you think. He sighed. I just need a bit more sleep. My head hurts. Caprice gave his arm a light, reassuring squeeze. Then just rest. I won't talk. I'll stay right here until you're ready to get up. She sat quietly beside him. For the first time in a long while, their silence was not awkward or lonely, it was peaceful. Devereaux smiled warmly at me, creating a welcoming atmosphere. So, Angie, tell me a little about yourself, he said. I took a deep breath, feeling both nervous and excited. Well, I'm finishing up high school and I'm really interested in working here. I've always loved reading, and I'd enjoy helping others find books they like. He nodded encouragingly. That's a great reason to want to work in a library. What kind of books do you enjoy? I like a bit of everything, but I especially love mysteries and young adult fiction, I replied, hoping to connect. Mr. Devereaux leaned back, clearly interested. Those are popular genres. It's important to be excited about the books we recommend. Do you have experience working with people? I thought for a moment and mentioned my volunteer work at community events. I've helped organize events at school and in my neighborhood, so I'm used to interacting with different people. That's great, he said, a bright smile on his face. Teamwork and communication are key in this job. As the interview went on, I felt my confidence growing. Mr. Devereaux was professional yet friendly, making it easier for me to share my thoughts and experiences. Before long, our conversation wrapped up, and he thanked me for coming. Regardless of the outcome, it was lovely to meet you, Angie. We'll be in touch soon, he said as we stood to shake hands. I left the library feeling both relieved and hopeful, eager for what would come next in this new chapter of my life. Devereaux looked over my application and then looked up. I see you have no prior experience. No, sir, I said, but I'm willing to learn. You have no college training? No, but I did well in high school. He looked between me and my application, which I knew was brief. It says here you're divorced, live with your mother, and have a child. Yes, sir, I answered. He looked at me closely. I knew he was thinking about how I had a child and still lived at home with my mother. I was aware of how I must look. I look young for my age. His next comment was not very nice. You've been out of high school for some time, and in that time you've had 4 jobs, none lasting more than a few months, and none of them preparing you for working in a library. I knew it was a long shot, but I had to speak up. Mr. Devereaux, if you give me a chance, I promise I'll be the best worker. I can learn quickly. I'm a hard worker when I really want to, and right now, I really want this. He just stared at me, and I felt nervous, as if I were being examined closely. I had to break the silence. I was worried that someone might complain. My husband, Caden, wants a family. If I don't get this job, I might lose that chance. Please, Mr. Devereaux, I'm willing to do anything. I can clean floors, work evenings, even do extra hours for free. You can pay me less if you need to. I just really need this job. He was listening to me. At that moment, I didn't know that my ex-husband had promised Mr. Devereaux some help to upgrade the computers in the office. All he needed to do was find me a job. He sighed, sounding a bit uninterested. You know, I've already spoken to 3 other candidates for this job. They all have more qualifications than you. I felt deflated. I knew this was a long shot. Then he said, However, there is a position available. I perked up again. A position? He continued. It's not really the type of job the library usually offers. The state has a program for individuals with special needs. You would work for the state. The hours would be part-time. You'd work 4 to 6 hours in the evenings. You'd come in about an hour before the library closed and stay until about 10 each night. If you don't drive, you'll need someone to pick you up afterward. The work is mainly basic tasks: cleaning, vacuuming, taking out the trash, and handling some lighter items like books and DVDs. The pay is minimum wage, and it's not a prestigious position. I didn't mind. I had a job. Cleaning was honest work. I'll take it. There's a uniform. I'll wear it. I can take care of it myself. When can I start? He replied, If you can give me your clothing sizes, I can order your uniform. This is Monday, so I should call you by Wednesday or Thursday at the latest. He looked unsure about my skills. As he stood up, I did too. I reached out my hand. Thank you so much. He smiled. Don't thank me yet. I rushed to my mom's car and hopped in. I got the job. Meanwhile, Mr. Devereaux made a phone call. Hello, Mr. McLeish. Yes, this is Devereaux. We have a job for Miss Bradford. It's mostly basic tasks, and she will work evenings. I'm sorry, but it's the best I can do. She will start later this week, and I appreciate your support. Caden, still resting in bed with Caprice, listened and sighed. She got the job. That meant she would have some routine, and Devereaux would get his computers. He glanced at Caprice. That was the library. Angie has a job. Caprice whispered to me, You're a good guy. We cuddled for a moment and then fell back to sleep. Soon, it was time to wake up. I looked into Caprice's lovely green eyes. How had she captivated me so? We should get moving. I have you scheduled for 1 p.m. at the dentist. I don't have an appointment with the eye doctor, but I think if we show up, he'll see us. Let's get ready. Caprice frowned. I was forgetting something. We need to freshen up first. I can't go out like this. I smiled. How about a shower? Caprice followed me into the small bathroom. I turned on the shower and asked, I only have one type of shampoo. Is that okay with you? She nodded and we both stepped into the shower together. It felt good. It was comforting to share this moment. I enjoyed the warmth and the feeling of being close. I looked into her bright green eyes. I wanted the water to flow over us forever. I asked her, Did you enjoy this? I didn't want to lie, but I knew I couldn't. No, but it felt nice. She asked, Do you usually get close with other people? That surprised me, but I understood why she asked. I replied, Others don't usually ask. They often just say something like, I was great, wasn't I? And I respond with, You're the best. But with you, it's different. I value who you are. Even if I didn't have other experiences, I'd be happy just being close to you. I could tell she was somewhat let down, so I added, Being with you isn't about how many moments we share. I can't pretend I've had other experiences when I haven't. I can't fully explain how you make me feel. I just know that being around you is wonderful. You're all I want. I felt a bit sad that she didn't understand what I felt. Let me help you dry off. Then you can go and get ready. I'll do the same, and we'll head to the dentist, I said as I stepped out of the shower. Emily sat on her pony named Johnny. Mrs. Bradford was on the porch while Aubrey Ellis walked the little girl around in the yard. Aubrey had spent his life as a farmer and had also served in the army. He had a small farm and sold produce to local shops. In winter, he took people out for hunting. Aubrey held the reins firmly. Now hold on tight, little girl. Your father would be upset if you fell. Do you know my daddy, mister? Aubrey, asked Emily. Everyone knows your daddy, sweetheart. Can you tell me, Mr. Aubrey looked up and asked, Who is my daddy? Your daddy is a handsome man that many people know. You see him almost every day. Is Mr. McLeish my daddy? As they approached Mrs. Bradford, he knew her thoughts about Caden. Would you like Mr. McLeish to be your daddy? I don't know. Mommy says he's not nice, but he doesn't seem mean to me. Mr. Keith is the mean one. Emily, Bernard Keith isn't your daddy, but I think Caden McLeish would be happy to be your daddy. Emily lost interest and said, Look, Grandmommy, look at me. Caden and I arrived at the dentist's office. After some x-rays, the dentist found 2 small cavities. He fixed my chipped front teeth and said he would send molds for temporary caps. The permanent ones would take a little more time. After that, Caden took me to the eye doctor. After a short wait, everything went well. I found out I was nearsighted and got a prescription. We then went to pick out new glasses, a pair of black ones and a pair of turquoise. Caden liked the turquoise because they matched my hair and eyes but preferred the black for their classic look. After our appointments, we stopped at Wendy's for salads and talked. I was curious and had many questions. I asked, "Why did you want to spend time with me? I thought you were worried about being around me." "You don't need to worry." "How do you know that?" "I just do." I felt sure I didn't have any worries, since Vince always took us for checkups. "Why are you spending so much on me?" "Because I want to." "But why?" He pulled me closer and laughed. After our meal, Caden asked, "What do you want to do now?" "I would like to buy some books." "Books?" he exclaimed. "Yes, I want to reread Victor Hugo's Les Miserables and look at some poetry." He chuckled again. We went to the Gold Coast Mall to check out bookstores. He picked up a Tom Clancy novel while I got Victor Hugo, some Jane Austen, a book of American poetry, and several sonnets. I thought, how did I know I'd already read Victor Hugo? Later that night, we settled on the sofa with our books. I couldn't remember the last time I enjoyed something so simple, but it felt familiar, like I had done it before, but couldn't quite remember when. While reading, I thought about DNA and whether it could help answer some questions. It was a growing field, and I knew the right connections were important. Fingerprints came to mind as another way to gather information. She had been in a tough situation for a long time, and I suspected she might have had run-ins with the law. Her fingerprints might tell a story about her past. I waited until we went to bed. We merely enjoyed being close without crossing any lines. Once I knew she was asleep, I quietly went into the bathroom and swapped out the cup we had been using for a clean one. I carefully wrapped the used one in a napkin and hid it away. Tomorrow, I would find an opportunity to take it to the state police. The next morning, Caden got a call. Things seemed to be falling into place for me. Angie called to ask for Caprice, saying she had news. I pretended not to know what it was. While Caprice was with Angie, I worked around the farm. The next days passed in a similar way. Caprice came home, and I was impressed by her cooking. We read together for a while, then went to bed. We didn't develop a deeper bond either night. I had a feeling something was happening between Angie and Caprice. I wasn't worried about it. I didn't have a serious relationship with either of them, and the thought of two women being together didn't bother me. On Thursday evening, Caprice called to say she was spending the night at Angie's mother's. I didn't think too much of it until around 10 p.m. when Angie called and said I needed to meet her outside right away. When I asked what was wrong, she said it was about Caprice, which made me concerned. I hurried to my truck and drove over. When I reached Mrs. Bradford's, I saw Angie and Caprice waiting outside. Caprice looked upset. She said, "Caden, that man from the church on Easter, You mean Aaron Giles?" "Yes, that's him. He tried to grab me. He knows who I am." "Did he hurt you?" Angie made Caprice show me her arms where Giles had grabbed her. I could see a mark on the side of her head as well. Angie looked worried, and so did Caprice. Caprice said, "Don't do anything. It happened before." But I couldn't just ignore it. I looked at them and said, "You both go back inside." I rushed back to my truck, knowing where Aaron might be. He would likely be at the wagon wheel with his friends. I had never liked Aaron, and this felt like the right moment to confront him. As I entered the wagon wheel parking lot, it was crowded. I looked around and spotted Aaron's Jeep Cherokee. After confirming he was inside, I went in. As I entered, the room went quiet. They were waiting for me. I quickly found Aaron, and he saw me too. He shouted, "Look, it's the little guy. What, are you here to defend your friend?" I didn't answer. I walked over, and when I was close enough, I threw a punch with all my strength. I should have been careful. Aaron was bigger and stronger than me. He dodged my punch and landed a few hits of his own. I found myself on the floor, and everyone started laughing. But I wasn't done yet. I got back up and tried again. My punches didn't hit. He blocked them well and hit me back a few times. I ended up on the ground again, tasting blood in my mouth. I knew I didn't have much chance, but I wanted to land at least one good hit. I stood up again, charging at him, hoping to catch him off guard. He stepped aside and hit me in the stomach, leaving me breathless. I bent down to recover when he struck me on the back of the head, sending me down once more. By then, I felt like everyone was laughing at me, but I couldn't give up. This wasn't just about me. It was for Caprice. In that moment, I realized how much she meant to me, no matter what had happened. I had to keep trying. With blood on my lips and my vision blurry, I got back up. This time, I found a chair and swung it at him, hitting his head. The chair broke, and I heard the sound of it hitting him. To my surprise, the bouncer, a friend of Aaron's, was there right away. He took the chair from my hands and pushed me back against the bar to stop things from getting worse. "Caden, you've made your point," he said. "I suggest you leave before the police come." I looked down at Aaron. He had hurt me, but I managed to hit him with the chair, and he was now on the floor, unconscious. I staggered out of the bar. The silence was heavy. Once I got to my truck, I picked up my phone and called Mrs. Bradford. Angie answered. "Angie, tell Caprice I took care of it." I don't remember how I got home, but when I pulled up, Angie and Caprice were waiting for me. When they saw me, they started both laughing and crying. I think it was a mix of nervousness and relief. I hurt all over, but I felt a rush of excitement. Things were tense. The next day, we got a call that they had taken Aaron to the emergency room. My one hit had caused serious damage, and he needed stitches and surgery for a significant injury. The police had tried hard but couldn't find anyone who saw anything. When Aaron woke up, he kindly wouldn't say who did it. I figured I should stay inside for a few days. I didn't want anyone to see me, and I definitely didn't want the police looking for me. Overall, it was quite a way to end the week after Easter. I spent several days resting. Caprice acted like a caregiver, treating me like a hero. I guess in a way I was. I knew when I got back out, nobody would mention Caprice's past, at least not in front of me. Caprice really took care of me. It wasn't romantic, but I felt a lot of genuine kindness. I appreciated it. She even helped take care of my black eye, which was a nice change. The following weeks had both good and bad moments. The good included Emily falling in love with her pony. Aubrey came to the bar with his brother and warned others not to seek revenge on me. Angie wasn't mean to me anymore, but she also didn't go out of her way to be friendly. Dr. Dean sent over Caprice's health report. She was doing well. I managed to send off the glass with Caprice's fingerprints, but nothing had come back yet. The dentist took care of Caprice's cavities and put in her temporary caps. The real caps were still a few days away. There was some bad, too. Angie started her job, and some library patrons were teasing her about her looks and work. I heard that her old friends from high school were not kind to her. I thought that was unfair. Devereaux refused to help. It was disappointing. I saw her uniform. It was an unattractive blue outfit with a white apron. I didn't like it. I told her I was proud of her, but she ignored my compliment. Pastor Cook was meeting with both Angie and Caprice, and I sensed what he was trying to do. It seemed like he wanted to help them become more independent, which meant I might be left out. I felt a bit jealous. Angie and Caprice were becoming closer friends. Sometimes Caprice would pick Angie up from work, and they would stay at my house for the night. I would sleep in the room across from theirs. Late at night, I could hear them talking and laughing. The fact that Caprice was not showing me any affection made me feel even more out of place. In terms of closeness, Caprice didn't show interest in that way. But in other ways, like our talks and quiet moments, she was great. When Angie wasn't there, it felt like we were a married couple. Sometimes I would rest my head in her lap, and she would rub my back. Other times, she'd lean in to whisper, and I could feel her warmth beside me. She was just a really nice person. I had been trying hard. I thought I was doing everything right, but I felt more like an outsider in my own home. Can a man feel left out in his own house? Can he feel sidelined by two people he cares about deeply? It sure felt that way. From what I saw, Angie was having a difficult time at the library. I had just moved here a few weeks before Mr. McLeish called me about her, so I was still learning about everything. Let me just say, people can be unkind, no matter where they live. It didn't take long for me to hear the full story about Angie and me. My guess is that both of them had their own struggles. I moved from Philadelphia after going through a tough time myself. Right after graduation, I married my college sweetheart. Her name was Gloria, and she came from a wealthy family. I had an apartment off campus that I shared with two friends. Gloria was focused on her studies, and her father's money meant she didn't have to worry about bills. I had to work hard for everything I had. Gloria went to college to enjoy herself and figure out her life. She spent her 4 years having fun, majoring in English literature. She knew it wasn't the best choice for a career, but she wasn't looking for that. She just wanted to find someone special. To my joy and later disappointment, she chose me. I studied business administration, but also found an interest in library science. It seemed like a field where fewer people went, which could help me stand out. I'm Matt Devereaux, by the way. I worked hard and completed my degree. With a grant and help from a distant relative, I managed to earn my master's in library science. After graduating, I quickly learned that this field was just as competitive as any other. Still, I was fortunate to find a job in the Philadelphia Public Library. I met Gloria at a summer gathering. I had been there to finish some early coursework for my master's. She was there to catch up on classes she had missed. I was smitten. She was beautiful and very popular. To my surprise, she took an interest in me, and I thought it was true love. Later, I realized I was more of a social cover for her. Throughout her senior year, I was always by her side. I genuinely cared for her and believed she was faithful. I spent a lot of time on my graduate studies and helped professors with their work. I supported Gloria while balancing my studies, unaware that there were issues in our relationship. I finished my master's program, and soon after, we got married. Since we both attended the University of Pennsylvania, we were often close to her social circle. I married her, worked hard, and started looking into doctoral programs while she handled home life. Honestly, I thought everything was fine until one afternoon when I came home early. I stumbled upon something unexpected, and it became clear that things were not as they seemed. Without needing to think twice, I packed a few bags and left within 20 minutes. I found modest housing and settled in with a couple of friends. A few days later, Gloria found me. She apologized and said she felt sorry, but by then I had learned more about what had happened before. She called me often, so I eventually picked up my phone. Despite my feelings for her, I knew who I was. I wasn't the most popular person around, but I was still a man. Broken promises are like a broken egg. Once cracked, nothing can be fixed. Gloria didn't give up easily. After months of trying to reach me, I started hearing different stories about her. Our final conversation made me realize that our breakup affected her pride more than her heart. It was over. I felt sad, but mostly frustrated. I never thought I would face such conflict. I promised myself not to be unprepared again and signed up for karate lessons. After months of hard work, I felt ready to defend myself if I ever needed to. Since moving south, I found a new karate school and continued my training, gaining confidence without the desire to use my skills. From my time with Gloria, I learned that trust is delicate. I also realized how easily someone could disrupt another person's life for their own sake. Now let me tell you about Angie. She faced a lot of teasing when she started her job. Word got around that she was a hard worker at the library. Many of her old high school friends came by to make hurtful remarks. Others from the neighborhood did too, and I think her old friends affected her the most. I stayed out of it. The only person who stood up for her was a woman named Caprice. She was different from anyone else I had met. Angie and Caprice didn't seem like a typical pair. I began to watch them closely. They shared a special bond. I thought Mr. C. McLeish might come by, but he never did. Later, I found out he had overindulged at a bar trying to support Caprice. I lost respect for him. No one is worth risking one's well-being for. I learned that lesson myself. Angie intrigued me. She wasn't the most glamorous person I had seen, but she was very different from Gloria. I began to wonder what it would be like to get to know Angie better. I didn't see her as a long-term partner, but she seemed lonely, and I was growing tired of being alone. Then there was the day Caprice got a makeover. Caden took me to the dentist today, where I got my permanent caps. He had to do a little shaping and adjusting. When the procedure was done, I felt great. I had a new smile. Caden asked me to stand in front of the mirror, and he said, "Now that's a lovely smile on a lovely face." I looked at myself and thought I almost looked good. When he called me beautiful, warmth filled me. I had heard many compliments from men, but Caden's felt real. I wanted to thank him. I hoped he would take me home to spend time together. If I told him how I felt, I was sure he would. I imagined a fun afternoon with him. I knew how much Angie cared about Caden, and she was my friend. She acted so childlike around me, almost like a younger sister. Because of this, I felt I couldn't encourage Caden. I was also afraid of how I was starting to feel about him. I knew he liked me, and when he stood up for me at the bar, it felt incredible. I didn't want him to face any harm, but I think every woman likes when someone stands up for her. We just stood there looking at each other. I told him, "I'm scared to eat anything. I don't want to ruin my teeth." He said he loved how I looked, how I spoke, and how my eyes sparkled when I talked. It felt like he was saying too much. Then I was surprised when he said, "Caprice, forget about food for a while." "Why?" I asked. "We have another doctor appointment today." "Really? Where?" He smiled and said, "I'll tell you in the truck." He walked with me to the truck and held my arm. Once inside, he said, "Remember, I promised to help with your health." I looked at him, intrigued. "Yes," he said as he started the truck and drove away. "We have an appointment for your well-being." He tried to sound serious, but it was a little funny because it didn't quite work. He added, "I can tell when you feel uneasy. You're too young and full of life for that." There he went again with the compliments. I replied, "If you say so." "I do," he affirmed. After a long wait, we finally got to the doctor's office. At first, the doctor didn't want Caden to come in with me, but I insisted. It was my choice. The doctor, named Owen Winthrop, was kind during the exam. He explained, "There are some health concerns. Some are from age, but mostly from past events." I quickly interrupted, "Caden didn't do anything. I've changed." Caden looked pleased with what I said. Dr. Winthrop looked at Caden and then at me. "The procedure will be simple. I can use either lasers or scalpels. The laser is quicker and cleaner. After you heal, you will feel much better." He glanced at Caden and added, "While we can fix the physical issues, it is vital to ensure you are treated with respect." I watched Caden as he said, "Doctor, I understand everyone is responsible for their own choices. However, I promise she will always be treated kindly while she is with me." I felt proud of him. He was standing up for my dignity. Caprice's healing journey continued. The surgery went well, and by the next day, she was sitting up in bed with care instructions beside her. Angie stayed with her in the morning. Caden came by that evening to check on her and left after she assured him she was okay. At first, Caprice felt unsure about getting too close to others. Even though Caden helped her a lot, some moments made her nervous. He had offered to help with her recovery, but she softly declined. "Not yet," she said. "I just need a little space. It's not you, I just need time to feel like myself again." Caden respected her wishes. "I understand," he said. "Let me know when you're ready." That meant more to her than he could know. 3 weeks later, Caprice met a new doctor for her ongoing healing. The appointment went smoothly, and the doctor explained everything patiently. Caden drove her and waited outside. Afterward, Caprice sat with him in the truck. The atmosphere was calm. "I never thought I'd be starting fresh like this," she said. "You're not starting fresh," he replied. "You're finally getting the care, respect, and choices you deserve." She looked at him. "Thank you." Caden nodded. "One step at a time, I'm here." I quickly learned that people see doctors in a good light, and mostly I agree. However, some doctors can be a problem. Some are not nice at all. Who is more vulnerable than someone brought to a doctor's office by someone questionable? I found myself behind a curtain with a doctor. He looked at me and said softly, "I'm going to help you look your best." He reached out, tracing a finger along my lips. In the past, I would have responded differently, but not this time. I held my ground and said firmly, "I need Caden." The doctor stepped back and called the nurse to get Caden. He understood immediately. I might have a history, but I was not alone. To him, I was someone special. Caden entered the room, looking around at the medical equipment with a hint of unease. I was glad to have him there with me. After my appointment, the doctor sat down with Caden and me to explain what would happen next. His words made the procedure sound impressive. I thought to myself, it feels more like fixing something instead of letting go of it. He said, "Essentially, what we'll be doing is improving your body. It involves 2 surgeries. We'll enhance your muscle tone and reshape the surrounding areas. When I'm done, you'll feel renewed." He continued, "Think of it as a chance to make your body feel young again. I've looked at everything closely. I understand you may have had some discomfort before. That will change. At 30, it's normal to feel a bit less fulfilled. Once I'm finished, you'll find a fresh start, boosting your confidence and joy. I avoided looking at Caden, not wanting him to know I was getting nervous about being close with him again. I could have shared my feelings, but it would have meant him leaving the room. Even though he knew my past, I felt uneasy around him. I didn't see our previous times together as an issue, and I didn't want anything from my past to affect my bond with Caden. I worried about how to express my feelings. I knew he would not like what I had to say. Honestly, my feelings for Caden were starting to frighten me. I felt unworthy of having feelings for him. I couldn't seem to let go of my past. I meant that while I am becoming my true self again, he still remembers who I was. I think I'm starting to realize I can be more. Caden has inspired me to improve myself. I understood that returning to my old ways would only complicate his life. He deserves someone without my history. I care too much about his happiness to interfere with his chance for true fulfillment. I see the problem clearly. I am in the way. Caden's unease was obvious. Still looking at Caden, the doctor added, "If you're both interested, I can customize your appearance." He pulled out some pictures. "Here are some examples. One shows a woman who chose a special design. Would either of you like something similar?" Caden had been observing the doctor closely since the exam, and I could tell he didn't like the doctor's expression. The doctor had seen my tattoos, including a mark on my back that reminded me of a past I wanted to forget. Caden was aware of that and didn't appreciate it. He had already found a way to remove them. At first, I said I liked my tattoos, but I knew this was one area where he would strongly disagree. We both understood there were certain marks I wanted to change. Caden placed his hands firmly on the doctor's desk. "Dr. Mensis, my friend Miss Fisher has a history. I'm sure your exam showed that, but neither she nor I want her to be more revealing. Our goal is to help her return to a normal life. I want Caprice to feel joyful, not a reminder of a different life." I smiled at what Caden said. He had come to my defense. I shouldn't have, but I linked my arm with his. When he spoke up for me, I felt clear-headed. He was like my prince. This realization made me uneasy. I didn't want to lose that feeling. Caden believed in me, fighting for my happiness. In my thoughts, I could picture a future with him, even if it felt unlikely. The doctor smiled. "I can promise you that after the procedure, Miss Fisher will feel renewed, just like in her happier high school days. No extra changes are necessary." Caden looked from the doctor to me. "That's what I want. I want Caprice to be happy. That's all that matters." I noticed the exchange of understanding looks between the doctor and Caden, making me feel small. Then Caden turned to me and asked, "I want this for you. Do you want it too?" I nodded. Words were hard to find. Caden. I leaned close and touched his cheek gently. It felt like a moment of vulnerability. I didn't want to mislead him. I didn't feel deserving of his care. The doctor looked at us both. "I see that as a yes for what I'm going to do." I felt tears forming in my eyes. I simply nodded, and Caden agreed too. A few days later, I had a surprise. Surprise! I got my period and felt some discomfort. I asked Caden to get supplies. I was worried. Maybe one of my ovaries was working. Perhaps I could have another child with Caden. That thought made me happy. 2 weeks later, I was at a Wilmington hospital. The next morning, Dr. Mensis performed the surgeries, and that afternoon, I was in a private room with Caden and Angie by my side. Normally, I would leave after one night, but since Caden was covering everything, he insisted I stay another night. Mrs. Bradford took Angie home after the first day. Caden stayed with me, caring for me as I had cared for him before. It was hard to keep my feelings in check around him. I could feel myself falling in love, and I knew I couldn't let that happen. We didn't say much at the hospital, but once we were back at his farm, Caden started talking a lot. The morning we were set to leave, I felt so weak, and I could tell he noticed. He held up a mirror, and I saw the marks and bruises that were starting to show. I couldn't believe it. Many had looked at me closely before, but when Caden did, I felt a warmth inside. He leaned in and softly touched my shoulder. It was comforting, and in that moment I realized I needed to step back so I wouldn't complicate his life. The drive back from the hospital was quiet. I dozed off and dreamed a little. I pretended we were married, imagining that he would take care of me forever. It was a nice thought, but I knew it was out of reach. We had just settled in the living room when Caden said, I know you might not want me to, but tomorrow I will start removing some of your tattoos. I acted like it didn't matter. Which ones will you take off? The barcode will go first, and then the runes. I might leave the butterfly alone because it's lighter ink and harder to remove. I don't want to cause you any extra discomfort. I replied, I'll do what you want. You can even add more if you want to. He reminded me he wasn't a fan of tattoos, but said, Caprice, I wouldn't change anything about how you look, but if I can't completely remove these, maybe we can choose something you would like together. I would like that, Caden. It would be even better if they were things you like too. Why did I say that? I can't stay. I have to leave, even though I don't want to. He took my hands and helped me stand. I want you to rest for a while. I'm supposed to go out tonight. Angie's coming over with Emily and Mrs. Bradford. He helped me to bed, and I wished Angie would let him stay a bit longer. I felt like she was being a little too much about everything, and I might need to speak up. Later that evening, Angie, Emily, and Mrs. Bradford arrived. Caden left for the library because he wanted to meet Matt Devereaux. While he was gone, we played games with Emily. I didn't mention my plans to leave or my worries about how Angie treated Caden. Angie spoke about Matt. Matt had invited me out that day. He asked if I wanted to go to a talk by a young author. He said it was fiction and that he had enjoyed it. He thought we could go to the discussion and have dinner afterward. I told him I would think about it. A few minutes later, I said yes. Caden was becoming a very caring companion. Dr. Mensis had mentioned there might be some after effects following the procedure. He says he's doing it for cleanliness, but I know he enjoys it when he helps me. Every time he does, it feels nice, but I wish he would let me feel more satisfied. Just when I start to feel close, he stops. I said, "Oh, Caden, please stop. I haven't felt happy in years, and now I spend all day wishing for more." But I truly feel different now, refreshed and alive. It's like I'm seeing everything for the first time. This made me notice that Caden looks well put together and attractive. I used to think certain interactions were uncomfortable, but now I want to experience that connection with Caden. I hope he can be my first true partner. I know I shouldn't think this way, but I really want him to be someone special in my life. Angie and Matt returned from their date. Matt, thank you. I had a great time. I didn't understand everything the speaker said, but I loved dinner. I had lobster for the first time. I kissed him on the cheek as I closed the door, leaning against it and listening to him drive away. It felt wonderful. Matt thought about the evening. I didn't get a proper goodbye kiss, but I wasn't expecting one. She looked good in a dress. Not too flashy, though. Angie walked slowly up the stairs, replaying her date in her mind. Matt was charming and such a gentleman. I haven't been treated like that in a long time. I hope he asks me out again. She heard movement in her room and opened the door. Mommy, I got scared, so I decided to sleep in your bed. That's all right, honey. Mommy, will you tell me a story? Sure, sweetie, but let me wash up first. Tell me a story that has a daddy. Okay, baby. What about the 3 bears? No, Mommy, I mean a real daddy. All right, just let me clean up first. Matt stopped at the streetlight in town. She's not bad, a little quirky. I think a few more dates will tell me where this goes. I should be cautious, though. I don't want to lead her on. This isn't serious, just casual. Back at the farm. Caprice, you knew I was going to remove at least 2 tattoos. I know, Caden, but do I really need to be held still? Please, Caprice, you have to be careful. If you start moving around, you might hurt yourself. I know this can be uncomfortable. I trusted him. He didn't want to hurt me, but these tattoos needed to go. I didn't want anyone to get the wrong idea about me. Time passed, and I felt a mix of emotions. I'm sorry, Caprice. I know this is what we should do, he said, sounding worried. It hurts, Caden. It really hurts, I said gently. He looked at me, and I could tell he felt helpless. I just had to trust him and hope for better days ahead. I never wanted to hurt anyone again, especially not her or Angie. I got a call from a friend at the police station. He's an older man and the head of the state police. I was supposed to visit him today. They had some news about Caprice's fingerprints. When I arrived, Hank took me back to his office. He said I could read everything but couldn't take any copies. I was allowed to take notes, though. Now I knew her real name, where she grew up, where she started her college, and I could piece together what happened. It seemed she had been arrested several times, mostly for minor issues, but never for anything more serious. Hank explained that public nuisance was a term used to describe certain behaviors. Someone always stepped in to help keep her out of jail. I learned about her background, her parents' names, and where they live. It's surprising they are still around. They check in regularly to see if their daughter has been found. It had been over 12 years since she disappeared. She must have run away shortly after turning 18. It looks like she thought she was in love, but the guy tricked her. Before she knew it, she was too deep to escape. Now I'm facing a real choice. What do I do with this information? I have to think this through. I need to tell her parents. At least I can do that much. Pastor Cook welcomed me into his office. I'm glad you came by, Caden. I wanted to talk to you. I listened politely, knowing he would bring up our earlier discussions. I trusted him, but I felt conflicted. Pastor, I'm worried. Since Angie and Caprice have been coming to see you, they seem different. What do you mean by that, Caden? Well, look, you know who they are. You know their struggles. I'm trying to protect them. I don't want Angie getting involved with someone like Keith again, and Caprice is still recovering. I'm glad you visited her at home, but each time you leave, she seems to change. Change how? She acts like she wants to leave, like she's lost in thought. I tell you, Pastor, she's not ready for that. Caden, can I ask you a few questions? Of course, Pastor. How old are these women? Well, Angie's almost 30, and Caprice is about the same age. They're not girls, Caden. They're grown women. I know that, but they're both vulnerable. They've faced a lot. They need someone. Someone like you? Yes, someone like me. Someone who will help them so they don't get into trouble. You care about them, don't you, Caden? Yes, of course. Angie was my wife once, and I care about Caprice, too. I mean, do you really love them? Of course, that's why I worry. They've been seeing you. They need me. Someone has to look out for them. They could get hurt. Caden. Pastor. Caden, think about what you just said. Remember before you returned from the army? Wasn't Angie with her father? Yes, but he was too controlling. He took care of her. He controlled her life. Have you seen her room? He put bars on her windows. And what about Caprice? What about her? Caden, what did she have before she met you? She had someone controlling her. And what are you doing now? I am looking out for both of them. With Angie, how is what you're doing different? You pay her bills, help her find a job, and stop her from being independent. How is that different from her father? I hesitated, but Cook raised his hand. Don't deny it. You've kept her from being independent. Pastor, look at her. She's small. Do you really think she can handle everything? Caden, we'll never know, will we? Not while you keep her from discovering her full potential. That's not fair. I care about Angie. I want her to be happy. Caden, do you want her happiness or do you need her to depend on you? What if something happened to you? Where would she be then? Okay. I get what you're saying. I will think about her independence. You'll provide her independence. But what if she wants something different? Are you serious? Do you know how risky that could be? Caden, she is almost 30, not a child. She can make her own choices. Pastor Cook, I want her to be safe. She has my child. That's what this is really about, isn't it? Her child, Emily. No, it's about what you need. You need her to need you. You want to control her choices. Are you any different from her father? He imposed restrictions on her. You're limiting her spirit. Caden, you have to let her grow. This is frustrating. You're frustrating, Pastor. I thought we were on the same side. You should guide me, not tell me what to do. If you love her, you've got to set her free. She's free now. She doesn't want anything to do with me. You're still holding on to her, Caden. Tell her how you feel, then let her go. This is really complicated. And tell me, what are you doing with Caprice? Caprice is a tough case. No one wants her to go back to her old life, but that's her choice. You can't keep her in your house forever. She had a hard past, and now she still feels trapped. I know you have feelings for her, and she cares for you too. But Caden, love is a powerful thing. You can't keep taking her to doctors for checkups. Eventually, you'll run out of reasons to keep her close. I was very frustrated. Look, Caprice has my car. She can go anywhere she wants. I give her all the money she needs. Your car, your insurance, your money. You decide how much she needs. I felt really frustrated. I wasn't trying to control Angie's life or keep Caprice locked away. Caden, they both care for you, but they're worried about hurting you. I had enough of this. This person, who was supposed to be a man of God, was making things harder. I left. I got into my truck and thought about what Cook had told me. I wasn't trying to manage their lives. Should I have just let Keith take advantage of her that night? I found her a job. Sure, it wasn't the best one, but it was something. I just wanted her to be happy. I wanted her in my life. Was that so wrong? He misunderstood Caprice. When I met her, she was in a tough situation. Was it wrong of me to help her with some basic needs? She needed those things. I wasn't being selfish. She was vulnerable. No, I wasn't trying to change her for myself. I would find a way to help Caprice escape her situation. I would help Angie more. I was going to talk to Devereaux. Matt and I have been dating. He's nice and good-looking, and he hasn't really pushed boundaries too much, at least not yet. But he is more forward than I feel comfortable with, and I'm not sure if he is being shy or just not very good at this. I really like him and think he could be a great partner, but there's something I can't quite understand. Honestly, what happened recently bothered me quite a bit. I talked to Caprice about it, and she didn't help ease my mind. I need to think about our conversation some more. I remember asking Caprice, "What do you think of Matt?" "He seems okay. How do you feel about him?" "He seemed nice at first, but now I'm not so sure." "In what way?" asked Caprice. "He buys me gifts." "That's a bad thing?" "First he gave me a pretty pin." "The little angel pin?" "Yes, and then he bought me some perfume because he thought of me when he saw it." "You mean the Chanel? It's nice." "He also got me a nice white scarf." "The one you're wearing now?" "Yes, do you like it?" "It's beautiful." "Did you know he gave me some new clothes?" Caprice leaned forward. "Really?" "Yes, he thought my clothes didn't fit well, so he said he bought me something better." "Did you take them?" "Yes." "You wore them?" "Yes." "And he wanted to see them?" "He did." "And you showed him?" "Well, I adjusted my dress a little. Angie, he thinks he's being clever, but he's not very subtle." "I don't know, Caprice. I don't think he's crossed any big lines yet." "Angie, he's being too forward, and it's not good. Just watch out. He's not done with the scarf." "What do you mean?" Caprice took my hands. "He's tried something, hasn't he?" I squirmed. "He wanted me to use it in a way that made me uncomfortable." "In a restaurant?" "In a restaurant?" "Did you?" Yes, I mean, he took it off my neck and asked me to." "Well, I did. He took off part of his clothing and well, it happened. He used that moment and now he'll want more." I nodded. Caprice frowned. "I know you don't want this to go any further." "But Yeah, you like him. He's been nice." "He takes you to great places. He pays attention to you. Maybe he thinks you're his girlfriend. Someday he might even want to take it further." I sat there frozen. Caprice seemed to have it all figured out. Then she challenged me. "Don't be silly, Angie. It's time for you to take charge, and I have an idea." I asked, "You do?" "Look, the weather is getting warm. Caden asked me to go to the fireman's dance next week. You should ask Matt to take you. If he doesn't want to, then he's probably not that interested. If he agrees, keep an eye on him." I asked, "You mean Caden?" Caprice shook her head. "Who else?" My hometown's volunteer fire department planned the Memorial Day dance. It wasn't on the actual holiday. They scheduled it for the week before so vacations wouldn't get in the way and work around the beach could go smoothly. I found Angie and Caprice outside, looking at the lawn and the woods. I had been thinking about putting in a pool, but after my chat with Pastor Cook, I was uncertain. I knew that if I could find a way to keep my girls close, I could make all three of them happy, including my daughter Emily, who I hadn't yet acknowledged. As always, at the end of the day, Angie would curl up and drift off to sleep in Caprice's protective embrace. She breathed softly, peacefully. Caprice gently stroked Angie's hair as she slept, but her thoughts wandered. They drifted toward a man with sandy hair who hadn't yet won a fight for his girlfriends, but had won the heart of someone he cared about deeply. He was her hero, her ideal. the kind of man she dreamed of, yet she felt she could never meet his standards. While her friend slept, she quietly wept. "I could be so good for you, Caden. I just don't feel good enough." Caden. It was the night of the big dance. Everyone who was anyone would be there. Angie arrived with Matt Devereaux. Bernard Keith had a date too. All the familiar faces were there, along with the better people in town. I parked the Lexus and helped Caprice out. As she walked to the front door, I admired her. She looked beautiful in her new dark brown jeans and bright white blouse. Her hair was neatly tied back, and she wore pretty garnet earrings and a lovely necklace. Her fitted boots had a little heel, making her look even more stunning. When we got there, the place was buzzing with energy. The music was lively, playing country western songs perfect for line dancing. The DJ played hits from artists like Old Possum, Lady Antebellum, and Toby Keith. I found us a table and helped Caprice into her seat. "Can I get you anything?" I asked. She smiled and said, "Just an iced tea, thank you." I headed to the bar to get her drink and one for myself. When I got back, Caprice was surrounded by fans. Barry Campbell grinned at me and asked, "Do you mind if I ask your date to dance?" I didn't dance much, so I smiled at Caprice and said, "It's up to her." Caprice smiled back, "You don't mind?" I blew her a kiss and whispered, "No, go ahead." That was it. Caprice was clearly the prettiest girl at the dance. Barry was the first to take her for a spin, followed by Bert McCabe and Curtis Murray. One dance after another, Caprice twirled and moved gracefully across the floor. I watched from our table, then moved to a spot along the wall. Finally, I found myself near the refreshment table, enjoying her dance while sipping my drink. I noticed how often Campbell kept asking her to dance, and it bothered me. The more I watched, the more irritated I became as friends praised my choice of date and mentioned how eager everyone was to dance with her. What upset me more was seeing Devereaux sticking close to my former wife. A few people asked Angie to dance, but Devereaux seemed to ignore that and kept hanging around her, invading her space while she tried to keep her distance. I glanced at Campbell and didn't like how he stood too close to Caprice. I thought about saying something but decided against it. That would only make things worse. Around me, everyone else looked like they were having a great time, except for me. Caprice had a big smile on her face. Maybe it was true. She was moving on. I thought about leaving and wondered if anyone would even care. I half expected Angie to come over and tease me, but she didn't. She watched from a distance, but whenever our eyes met, she quickly looked away. At least she seemed to be enjoying herself. Angie watched Caden and Caprice with worry. She thought, he saw me looking at him. I didn't want him to notice. I'm glad Caprice is having fun. She hasn't missed a dance, but not with Caden. I love teasing him, but I wish Caprice would be more thoughtful. I've noticed the way they look at each other. I can hurt him, but I don't think he's ready to see this side of her. Angie looked at her ex-husband. "Oh no, he's left the hall. I should have said something to Caprice. Wait, she's following him out, maybe." Caden couldn't take it anymore. "I need some fresh air," he thought, finishing his drink and stepping outside. He barely waited 5 minutes before seeing Caprice follow him. She found him leaning against a pole. "Caden, what are you doing out here?" she asked. He turned slightly, hesitating to meet her gaze. "I needed some fresh air." Barry Campbell approached, trying to step in between them. Caprice gently moved him aside and said, "Come back inside, please." He tried to keep it light, but felt frustrated. "Why? You're having such a good time." Caprice asked, "Aren't you going to ask me to dance?" "I don't know how." Campbell attempted to interrupt again, but Caprice pushed him away. "I'm with my date now, Barry. You go back inside." Barry glared at Caden before returning his focus to Caprice. "Later?" She smiled at him. "Not now." Then turned back to Caden. "Come on, I want to dance with you." "I told you I don't dance." She stepped closer, placed her hands on his waist, and began to sway gently. She softly sang an old Sam Cooke song, "You can dance with the guy who gives you the eye in the pale moonlight." She stopped singing and said, "It's the last dance, Caden," then took his hand and led him back inside. The DJ was playing a slow song. Caprice whispered, "You can do this. I want everyone to see you're with me." In that moment, he felt amazing. She wrapped his arms around her waist, making sure he felt comfortable. She leaned against him and murmured, "You're mine, and I'm yours." He held her tightly, wanting to say more but feeling anxious. Caprice was straightforward. They danced closely, lost in the moment. She felt right for him, and he for her. She knew he was nervous and understood without him saying anything. As the song was about to end, she whispered, "Tell me you love me." He leaned in and kissed her right there on the dance floor, surrounded by everyone. Caden kissed her, overwhelmed with happiness. It was past midnight when Caprice and Caden got home. He helped her out of the car, hoping for something special. Once they got inside, she kissed him and went straight to the bedroom, closing the door behind her. Caprice had decided tonight would be meaningful. She knew he cared for her, but she wanted everything to be just right. After shutting the door, she took some time to prepare herself, wanting to feel beautiful. When she felt ready, she stepped outside to where Caden was waiting. She approached his door and knocked softly. "Caden?" The house was quiet. "Caden?" He opened the door. Caden saw her, looking lovely in a beautiful outfit. He was at a loss for words. He managed to say, "Hi." She smiled gently, noticing the light in his eyes. "Caden, I used to be someone else. I don't know where that person went." He was drawn to her change. "You're beautiful. Caprice, truly beautiful." She replied, "I don't know who I am anymore. I feel different, but I know I'm still me." He understood her true self, but thought it might be best to wait. "Hello, my name is Caden McLeish. I'm still getting to know you. I know you're special, and I've already told you I care about you." He reached out and touched the back of her neck gently. He leaned closer and softly brushed his lips against hers. It was the warmest moment he had ever felt. He noticed the thin white ribbon around her neck and reached out to remove it slowly. Caprice felt cherished. He made her feel like someone important. She stepped into his arms. As she entered his bedroom, she felt like her old self had faded away. It was as if her past no longer existed. She felt renewed and excited. She told him, "This is my first time." They held each other in a warm embrace. He kissed her softly on her cheek and forehead, then gently on her lips. He took her hands and led her to the bed. To him, she appeared youthful, pure, and sincere. Caprice felt reborn. She embraced the moment, believing it would be the start of a wonderful night ahead. To be continued.